Yeah, so this is the 14th year of Connect with Your True Self monthly energy sessions. Yes, I'm wishing you a wonderful Connecting with Your True Self experience.
True Self, I know you there. If I take the time, I can feel you in my sacred heart. You remind me that I am more than just a projection of myself. You are my grounding rod, way shower, and guardian angel. You guide me through my dream world and help me to navigate the confusions of dark and light. And you give me the courage to be me. Thank you for always being there for me, even if I ignore you. Forgive me for all the times I have neglected your guidance. I am awake now, and I accept the unawareness of my past. It led me to refusing to listen to your signals and clues, denying your existence, and even forgetting to ask you for help. So often, I chose to listen to my false self, my ego, my mind, my fears, and my emotions instead. I believed in these false projections, those of others and my own, because it was all I could see. I was asleep. I identified with my false self, my defenses and protection, and all its pain, which separated me even more from you. I didn't know any better. I herewith absolve myself for all I thought, felt, fantasized, and did out of the lack of awareness in the past. I can now see how useful each of these lessons, in which you let me feel the pain of not being true to myself, were. Out of the love for the divine in me, you go through everything with me, unconditionally. I finally understand this now. All fears, justifications, and temptations that come from the illusion of being alone in this world are the true darkness I need to overcome. And that this is why you are here with me, to guide me and protect me, and to keep me awake when I sleep. For that, I want to thank you and return this love by becoming more true to myself. From here on, I choose to trust in this love more, by trusting in my true self-awareness that gives me the ability to feel you at all times and to discern truth. Your love is sacred to me. I can feel you now.
so happy to have you guys all here live. If you're watching this on YouTube, my name is Jona Bryndis, and this is the 14th year that I am doing monthly Connect with Your True Self workshops. It's a combination of an energy healing session, a deeper meditation session here with roughly 100 people from all over the world, and a live meet talking about our inner experiences. And we start the session with an invocation, a mantra, so to speak, which is almost like a declaration addressing the true self in us, and confessing to our own true self. And it never gets old, guys. It never gets old in a time like ours right now where we have so many things, so much information, so many impulses that are coming in from the outside to deal with like never before, really, in the history of humanity. And we feel quite overwhelmed. And what it is that we are now experiencing when we are moving back into our true self, or what we can experience when we can find our true self somewhere in there, within our own being, is something that we call an awakening, or something that we call an inner light turning on. Why do we even need this? Yeah, for 14 years I have been doing this now, talking about the same thing over and over and over again. And there are so many different aspects of our true self. So many different layers and so many different phases and parts of this journey that is different every single time. But there is something that I have noticed now for about the last 3-4 years, and that is that there is a lostness in us. There is a feeling of no longer knowing what is going on. It's an issue with our perception. And this came in very, very strongly here during this session today. This confusion, not just about who we are, but mostly a confusion about where we are and what we're supposed to do. And this issue with perception, as I'm naming it now, brings us right back to the core of what our true self actually is. Right back to why is it even a thing? Why do we even have to come together, read, talk, all this to just really connect within ourselves? Connect with our own truth. So this is where I wanted to start the discussion here of our session. Personally, and I don't know if I can speak for you, Cindy. Cindy and Sheila co-facilitated the session with me. I did not really feel any physical discomfort.
I didn't either.
Yeah, there are some typical things that we usually feel. It's like a sort of a tension in the neck, or buzzing, or heat sensation, a little bit of heat sensations, I would say. But the main sort of work, the main energy work here today appeared to be in our etheric body. It appeared to be about how we think, and how we perceive ourselves, how we think, the thought forms that we have. Now, anybody here that had passed a different experience, did you have any, let's say, energetic or physical sensations, something that came up for you during the session that you would like to inquire about? Anybody? How did the session go for you? Nobody really physical experiences? Okay. All right. Rita, you had some physical experiences. You can type here in the chat or turn on your microphone if you can
I think I'll
manage.
turn
Okay,
on my
go.
microphone. I'm not
Yes,
very, I won't be able to type.
I know.
Yeah, it was a really, really strong session. And I could actually connect with my soul. I couldn't download your meditation, so I just had one of my old ones. And I started doing the chakra meditation. And at one point in time, it was so strong, my seventh and the eighth, that I started making etheric moves, and it was dancing with me. It was a really, really strong but a beautiful experience, actually. I've never had that before.
So you are cueing me to go straight into the depth of what our true self can be. Yeah, when someone has trained their perception to a degree that they can differentiate, between experiencing themselves physically, emotionally, intellectually, say psychologically, or spiritually, there is something that occurs that allows us to actually observe, to step out and observe our true self, observe ourself. It's like you just said you saw yourself dancing with your etheric self. Yeah. It is really the spiritual version of you that you have been in contact with. This is a deeper form of your true self. Yeah, this is basically the way your true self looks like in spirit form. And your sharing, Ritu, indicates to me that your perception is already refined to a degree that you can see the spiritual reality. Maybe not of everything, maybe not of the entire world or other people or, anything that you come in contact with, but at least yourself. This is, for those of you who are wondering, one of the stages of development of higher perception. And also part of our spiritual initiation. There's a certain stage in which we can step out of our sort of ego self, and witness ourself. So you are also part of our energy training club, and it does not surprise me at all. I want you to know that this is a normal and good experience. Even if sometimes what we see is not always to our liking. So we don't just see, waterfalls and unicorns necessarily, but we do begin to make connections, through realizing that the mental, the physical, the emotional state that we are in, that creates a reality. And it reminds us that underneath all physical manifestation, that there is a spiritual reality underneath it. And if this is a little too difficult to understand for you right now, then I can only encourage you to come to my free workshops where I go through these different layers that you see here on the screen with examples and, help you, to guide you through this inner experience of that, not just as a sort of theoretical knowledge, but also as an inner experience. That's what we do in the Energy Training Club. But really what it means is the awakening to the fact that there is a spiritual reality underneath all that we are experiencing in the physical. And if that is so, and we have an inner experience of that, everything changes, guys. We are beginning to see the world with new eyes, with different eyes. Yeah, and that's why I called this session out as a session that was mainly about perception. Yeah. So what can we do with this? Yeah. Well, and this is where I left off, Ritu, so thank you for sharing. Yeah, what happens when we can see the spiritual reality underneath, let's say, daily things. Yeah, I mean, it's cool and all, but how does that help us in our daily life? Well, the short answer is it helps us in that we can make better choices. But how does it do that? How does it give us the opportunity to make better choices? So let's real quick define what the better choice is. What do you guys define as a good choice? As a choice in life, let's not talk about whether you want to eat a cheese sandwich or tuna sandwich, not those kind of choices. No, the kind of choices that lead to where should I live? Whom should I live with? What kind of job? What kind of corporation? What kind of mission? What kind of belief system? What kind of movies? What kind of songs or pop culture or whatever I'm subscribing myself to? Yeah, what I'm aligning myself to. What is a good choice for you? That's a real question. Let's define this. What is a good choice? Anybody?
Hey, Jona, I don't know if you can hear me, but...
Hey, Sheila, I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, you
yes,
didn't know if you could make it. Yes, I'm glad you're here. So Sheila co-facilitated the session with us, by the way. All right, you go ahead. You already know the answer.
I know. Well, I thought I'd pop in there and just, it's the, it's the expansion part that we consider in terms of, to me, learning that a quote-unquote good choice would be something that is more expansive and loving. And I've learned that over the years that that's what makes that a quote, better choice for me. Not always were those the choices I made, of course.
Can you give us a few examples of good choices? Like maybe not just personal choices, but, just in general. What is it? You say expansiveness and lovingness. What could that look like?
Well, something even as I guess as simple as taking a vacation, taking a trip, where to go. What does that end up looking like? I've done that a few different times already this year, and one time I chose not to go at all because it felt like it was going to be too much work to plan and do, and that did not feel good. And recently I made a different choice and decided to go and go somewhere different. So, but those choices became based on that decision, which was when I really stopped myself, it was really about, well, what did I really need at that time? And the last time I really needed to stay home and do a staycation and just rest and not, stress out and go on a trip. So
that's a key word here. You bring in needs, okay? Yeah, so a good choice is obviously something that ideally should be aligned to what we need and also, of course, what we want, right? And sometimes we can experience a conflict there. Sometimes it can be confusing for us because there's things that we want and then we find out, well, but that's not really what I need. Okay, so that how you define a good choice is a choice that, well, is all-encompassing in a way. Yeah, where you're able to weigh all these different aspects. Yeah, it would be cool to do this, and my ego really wants to go, but there are aspects that I'm seeing, like I have been hasting through my life. I'm just sort of enacting this now. I've been hurrying through my days, and really all I need is calm. All I need is be with myself, maybe with my loved ones, yeah, my pets, my plants, my loved people, and just be for a while instead of hasting, instead of sort of going on a trip where, like you said, planning or whatever that entails. Yeah, so this is as how you define this right now, a good choice, yeah, where you tune back in to what you truly need and what you truly want, and that brings expansiveness. I guess expansiveness is something that we still need to define, and lovingness, and I'm interpreting this, Sheila, as that brings you back to your own love, with yourself, and the things that you like engaging with. Am I interpreting this correctly? I don't want to put words
yes,
into your mouth.
yes, yep. When I'm thinking about loving, sure, it's for myself. It's that taking care of myself in a way that it meets those needs at a deeper level, right?
Expansiveness is a term that we use a lot here in energy healing or consciousness work. Yeah, that has to do with room to grow. Yeah, understanding that our overall journey here, as souls with a physical body, as sort of higher self, spirit selves that are having a physical experience of our higher self, that there needs to be a feeling or an experience of growth, of evolution, for us to feel fulfillment or to feel something like a feedback, that we are on the right path. So growth, sort of as the divine spark in all of us, that expresses through, like us feeling the freedom, to experience, to explore, maybe also to study, to gain more knowledge, to gain more wisdom about the world or ourselves. So expansiveness is a word that comes from an inner experience, and that is aligned to growth, to evolution somehow, that there is a further development. And those are very good factors, very good parameters to define a good choice. Because if we look at the opposite of this lovingness, this expansiveness, this alignment to our true needs and wants, if we look at the opposite, what would the opposite be? will look like. It'd be stagnation, it'd be a feeling of stuckness, it'd be a feeling of numbness, maybe a feeling of confusion or loneliness, yeah, and no drive, yeah, sort of a feeling of apathy and no motivation, no purpose. Anybody knows what I'm describing? Yeah? Or do you know somebody who feels this way, or are you feeling this way sometimes or more than just a few times? Yeah. So when we are experiencing a reality, yeah, a physical reality that feels like the consequence of making, say, not so good choices, yeah, and we have to have the discipline to not judge that. Okay, when we work with our true self, we can't go back and judge ourselves for our past choices. Instead, remember, we want to step out and witness ourselves. Yeah, and in that witnessing, our true self is born. It emerges. Yeah, it emerges as this I awareness, this I consciousness. Yeah, the I am, or simply, sort of your higher consciousness. So when we work with that, okay, and we look at our choices, it is not really about judging our choices, but more so looking at them from the perspective of how or what they brought into our lives. And maybe we're able to identify patterns. Yeah, like, for example, this is very, very common nowadays. And I want to say probably, if you haven't worked with this, the biggest task that we all have right now is not even feeling our true needs, not even feeling our true wants, not even knowing that we have a choice, and never really asking ourselves these questions. What do I truly want? What would be good for me? And obviously there's a lot of psychological things and trauma and even karma that can play a role in us not being able to see or to feel these things at a given time. It could also just be an avoidance pattern that we have, that we don't really want to look at reality in this way. We don't really want to know truth. Anybody here ever consciously experience themselves not wanting to see truth? Yeah, I have. And there are many occasions where, when I'm low, where I wished I could go back to this sort of childlike state where I didn't have this much awareness, where I could just sort of ingest life and consume it and go about my day without having so many deep thoughts. Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with experiencing this from time to time. But when we are not able or not willing to, yeah, so I really want to make this distinction here, to work with reality, yeah, then the choices that we're making are automatically not very well aligned to who we truly are, what we truly need, what we truly want. Yeah. And this is then where spiritual development, where spiritual thinking, spiritual perceiving as sort of a developmental increase, yeah, where we're starting, to feel the desire to know truth, yeah, to have our own insights, yeah, to have our own opinion even, or our own thoughts for that matter. Yeah, that desire is a prompting from your true self, yeah, to wake up to the fact that you can. That you can. This is God-given to all of us humans. This ability to step out of our ego, yeah, to step out of our physical, emotional, and mental constructs and witness ourselves as an I. The human is the only being here on this planet that can do that. Yeah, and the I, yeah, the conscious being in us that is directly linked to the spiritual reality, yeah, that was there before we incarnated into the physical, and where we return to after our physical existence, after death, if you will. Yeah, that can supersede. Yeah, that can supersede sort of what we're experiencing or how we're experiencing ourselves here in the physical without this witnessing, without our higher perception. So what happens, yeah, when you start bringing all these together, when you start bringing your physical awareness, your emotional awareness, yeah, how you're feeling, what your true desires are, yeah, what your true inner impulses, not your inner child or your ego. Yeah, but a true inner impulse is, even if it is just curiosity, for example, yeah, that comes in here through your astral. When you can witness your own thoughts, when you can see your own thought forms, when you can know the difference between your own thoughts that you have thought through yourself and those that you've adopted as, say, unconscious beliefs. When you can see them, we're not talking about right or wrong here. Yeah, we're just talking about perception. When you can begin to see and feel all this, that is when your true self emerges. And many of us will say, well, isn't it the other way around? Isn't it our true self that makes those other things, yeah, those other bodies or those other layers of ourselves emerging to us? No, it is the other way around, guys. But at the end of the day, that's semantics. The main point here is a different one. And that is that we need to understand that until we basically wake up to our true self and learn to witness our own self from that true self perspective, from that I, that individualized I perspective, we are more or less unconscious. We are more or less blind. Yeah, we make choices that are self-destructive, yeah, that go against our body. We eat food that is not good for us. We don't realize how it is basically making us sick. Yeah, we're not listening to our body's cues. Yeah, we're not exercising enough, or all these kind of things. We're not able to connect with our true feelings. We're not able to express them either. We get overrun by big emotions like anxiousness, for example, or anger. We have a hard time mastering our emotions, expressing them. That's the astral part of you. And last but not least, our thinking. We are full of repetitive thoughts. We have a tendency to loop in the same things. We have a hard time making decisions. We have a hard time trusting in our decisions. We're confused. We're worried all the time. We judge all the time. All those are basically symptoms of an unconscious self that can be witnessed the moment we allow ourselves to experience ourselves as a true self. So how can this occur? Many of you here in this session have a whole protocol of all your names here, had to deal with a sudden awakening to basically that the world is a scary world. This is sort of the big awakening that is occurring. There is a massive shift right now in our collective that forces us to look at the bigger picture. All these revelations, all these things that are, that we're being bombarded with, these truth bombs. They, on one hand, allow us to confirm some of the things that were hidden before. So for those of us with a higher perception, if you will, or spiritual side, it kind of feels relieving because now we no longer feel like the crazy ones, okay? But for the majority of people, this is a harsh awakening, to things that are fundamentally unthinkable for them. Those are thought forms, the reality that we are experiencing, that brings in thought forms that we could not think before. And therefore, we are now in a time here in our development where we need to learn this. We need to actively step into developing this ability to discern truth that I always talk about. Discernment of truth. This is the biggest and most important challenge in our time right now. There's many reasons. I've talked about this in other videos, duality of darkness, the nature of darkness, and so forth. Like, what are these forces that are making it so hard for us? So if you want to dive into that, you can look this up on my YouTube channel. You can also come tomorrow. We have a workshop here called Dimensions of Self, where I will go into these adversarial forces that are more or less, responsible for us not really, not yet being able to sort of organically connect with our true self, with our higher perception. So there's sort of counter forces at work. But the main thing that we need to understand is that all our confusion, all our fear, all our, incongruence, imbalances, and our bad choices, that those can be overcome by learning to use your higher senses that are already in you. It's just like muscles that you never train. They just need to be trained, that they can be overcome. But really all we need is this sort of light, that turns on in darkness, that turns on in our low states, and when we are sort of overwhelmed or overrun by the darkness that surrounds us in the world, that can give us navigation. They can show us a map and show us the path how to get through. That's basically what the true self stands for. The true self stands for the part in us that is able to discern truth, that is able to see in darkness, that is able to see when we are, for example, in a low energetic state that is so low that we can only make bad choices. We cannot see, the possibility or, the opportunity for, lovingness or expansiveness. We're not able to see that because we have blinders on. We are blind. Yeah, so there's this component of not having trained our vision, our perception, and also the blindness, okay, that can be induced from the outside. Yeah, so these are what I mean with that are these adversarial forces that are actually sort of putting on these rose-colored glasses so we can't really see clearly. Yeah, and our own choice. Yeah, our own choice to wanting to see truth. So we have to want to see truth. And when that desire awakens, and it's your true self, that aligns you to this, that awakens you to this and says there is, more out there. There is a bigger picture out there. So don't get lost, in yourself, or don't get lost outside of yourself, but follow me. I will shine the light for you. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. Yeah, so what Sheila mentioned there, expansiveness, lovingness, those are alignments, that come in when we are connected with our true self, because they show us the life. Yeah, so anything that is conducive for life, is of the light. And what is of the light can show us truth. Does this make sense? So when we cannot navigate the world, because we are blind or because all we can see is darkness, well, what is it that we can do? Let's shift here, in our last minutes to discuss things that can help us on a very practical level to either turn on the light or trust more in the light or refine our perception, our spiritual senses and organs so that we can focus the light a little better and navigate with higher degrees of accuracy. What can you what can you recommend? What helps you to reconnect with life in you, that wants to be nourished, that wants to expand, that wants to grow, that wants to express life and lovingness? How do you do this? What can you recommend? What works for you? Let's put together a practical list on how to better connect with our true self.
I make a point of trying to get together with like-minded people seeking the same. That is a commitment I try to make to myself and to others.
And it keeps us on our toes, right? provides like, or can provide a sounding board in a way, right? It can be a good
Yes.
feedback or reflection for ourselves. Like, is
Yes.
that why
Yes.
is that why you do this? Because it's interesting that you say commitment, almost like, yeah, it almost like it kind of calls you on, yeah, your own virtues. Is that what you
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And just like
Okay.
you said, there's always times that, um, you wish you could go back and just be unconscious. And sometimes that'll hit me on a day, and that's when I know that I need the sharing the most, or the engaging.
Yeah. Even though often in those low moments, it is the very thing that we don't want to do, right? Isn't it? I
Yes.
noticed. Yeah, I
Yep.
noticed that the lower we go, the less inclined we actually feel to share from the heart, to share from, from a level of truth. So it takes a little bit overcoming our initial notion, maybe the laziness or the fear. Yeah, a lot of times it's in the form of the fear. Yeah, because we don't feel quite equipped yet, yeah, to deal with ourselves, yeah, with the truth of ourselves. So sharing with others, communing, coming together, definitely, Cindy, one of the biggest and most powerful healing tools that we have, guys, as humans. Yeah. But let's say that's not an option, or we still haven't found a community or people that we can exchange with on this level. What can we do? What are some other suggestions or ideas that you guys have? For me, personally, guys, the most effective thing that I can do is to take a walk in nature. I am so lucky to be surrounded by nature. So by the way, what you hear, I don't know if you hear this high-pitched sound in the background. Those are crickets. Yeah, I'm sitting outside of my healing tent. It's pitch dark here in Florida right now. And I'm surrounded by beautiful trees and animals. And when I feel low, I go into the woods. I connect with my pets. I connect with my plants. And what they can do for me is almost like bring back sort of a benchmark of natural. Yeah, what is natural for me. When we are in these low states where we're either so caught up in our busyness and running around like a chicken with a cut off head, or we are so busy with performance things. We have to perform, we have to do this, we have to do this. All right, all these things, they have a tendency to disconnect us from our true self. It's not to say that they're bad, because sometimes that's part of life. But it is important that we have, or that we find ways for ourselves to balance that back out at any given time, yeah, throughout the day. Yeah, so for me, for example, connecting with nature, taking a walk in nature is part of my daily clearing and connecting ritual. Yeah, I have manifested a lifestyle that allows me to do this every day. Naturally, I don't have to think about this. Yeah, it is basically a part of me, yeah, that I do preventatively as well as intuitively whenever I need a break from something. Yeah. And I know many of you feel the same. Yeah, that nature is like sort of it's an equalizer. It's a balance, so it brings it back. What else? Obviously, we're learning a technique here that is called meditation, self-reflection, loving attention to ourselves. Yeah, those are of course, also ways to reconnect to balance, the imbalances or disconnection with its symptoms of like fear, doubt, anger, and so forth. But that's not always an option. Have you noticed when you're really low? Okay, when you're really low, it's very difficult, to feel the need for meditation. The lower we are, and I'm going to remove this here, just wanted to show how important it is to bring all this together. The lower we are, the fewer the options, if you will, and certain options or ways that we can handle reality fall away. When we go low, okay, we cannot necessarily go connect with our true self. We've already established that, but we can also not really witness ourselves anymore. Self-reflection becomes very, very difficult. This is the first thing that falls away. Our thinking gets compromised. We're starting to have mental looping. We keep thinking about the same things over and over again. We get very susceptible to outer opinions, to external things that operate, that affect our way of thinking. So the further down we go, our emotions get affected. You all know this when you feel depressed. When you feel so low in your feeling body, that you don't want to do anything anymore. You don't really want to participate in fun things. And worst case scenario, or the lowest state that we can find ourselves in, is when we can't even get our body to do things anymore. And therefore the ways that we can counteract, the ways we can balance out our energetic states, also need to be addressed in this way. It's very important that when you realize that you are very low, in life force or in spiritual force, that when you were just sort of operating on a robotic level, that the intervention that you need to do right there to stop and to overcome this or to balance this out has to happen on that level, but will have to align to a higher level. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to work your way out step by step. A lot of times, because it's the densest part of us, the easiest way to overcome a low state is to go into a physical activity. And utilize your nervous system and your neurotransmitters. That will help you to feel better, just on a biological level. I know that males intuitively do this. They seek physical labor, and this is the oldest sort of recipe, the oldest prescription in the world. That if you're experiencing a lot of anger or mourning or sadness, loneliness, deep, big emotions, to go into physical activity. So men do this intuitively, and this usually helps. It helps you to balance some of the neurotransmitter aspects, some of the neurological things, and then you typically feel a little better. And when you feel a little better, your thought forms become more positive, and that's then also when you can allow yourself to go into these higher spiritual ways of seeing the world and operating in this. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we can expect from ourselves, especially if you already have spiritual training, to operate on this true self level at all times. But this is not possible, guys. Yeah, in this physical experience, it's not possible to always operate on a true self level. But what is possible is for you to realize when you're not. That's so these methods of balancing yourself, focusing on something that is expansive, that brings growth, that brings more lovingness, loving attention to yourself. Those methods, those exercises, those disciplines are typically seen as our spiritual disciplines. Yeah, and we divide them into these 4 groups: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual consciousness work, because we experience not only different stages of awakening to our true selves, but also, we fluctuate between stages throughout a day, throughout a month, a year, and so forth, throughout our lives, depending on what we have to contend with, what we have to deal with. So when I say, do you become less susceptible to outer influences when you do this spiritual work, really what I mean is that, all these balancing methods, these disciplines, that you train, on a daily basis, like connecting with yourself, clearing, centering, and grounding yourself every day, that these become your second nature, so that you're still able to do them even when you're really, really low. And right now, in how our world develops, these outer influences become very, very strong, to a point where it's practically impossible to make good choices when you're blind, because the choices that we are given are no longer so that you can assume that they are in the interest of you or the higher good. We have a lot of darkness right now, so we all pick up on this, and the answer to navigate this darkness, guys, is awareness. Not just self-awareness, not just the psychological stuff, but spiritual awareness. Because with spiritual awareness, your spiritual senses and organs awaken, and with spiritual disciplines and initiation methods, they get trained and refined, and they basically shine the light in the darkness. And there's no magic involved. It is a very systematic process where you sharpen your lenses, and you become able to discern what is good, what is not good, what is true, what is not true, what brings more life, more love, and more truth into your life. So any questions here at this point, or observations, comments that you would like to share? Questions are welcome. I'm looking at my protocol here, making sure I did not forget. Yes, true needs, true wants. Values is what came up for most of you. Critical inner voice as a form of self-punishment. Overcoming that. We need to overcome that. When you witness yourself through the eyes of your true self, you cannot judge yourself for your blindness of the past, guys. You cannot do that. But like Cindy said, there's a certain level of commitment that comes to, being with your true self, that expresses in you starting to make choices that are just more integrous, I would say. They're in and they lead you to a new form of integrity, and that has nothing to do with political correctness, but an integrity that comes, from grace. That is aligned to life and truth and love itself. So that's sort of the secret behind all of this, is that we're starting to feel, what is good for all. All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming to our session, for sharing your life. If you're watching this video, use the search function and check if you can find videos for the topics that you're interested in.
Thank you.
Please, you're welcome, Linda. And please comment. Push the like button. Say something. Matthew, you always saying thank you. I love that about you. Because it also keeps those videos afloat on YouTube. Without responses, without likes, they go under. Nobody can find them. So I need your help, guys, to make this free information accessible for others. Thank you so much for coming again. If you are here in our Sacred Self-Healing community, then you will receive an invitation to join our workshop here Sunday, Mother's Day, at 2 p.m., talking about or discussing the topic of self, now from a larger perspective, all these different dimensions of self, our ego, our true self, our higher self, our spirit self, our soul self, our past self, our future self. We want to shed some light into this and discuss this together. Thank you so much, and happy Mother's Day. See you tomorrow or soon. Stay conscious. Bye-bye.